It helps us always to remember God's name, to remember not the name so much, but the creative force of the universe, that's who's running this whole show. And when we look, I was telling Viveka when we were walking here yesterday, my mother used to collect poems, and I don't know if she ever wrote poems, but she collected poems, classic poems, more poems from the 20s to the 40s in America. But I remember one line. I remember many of the poems, and I actually have the original poem book that my sister shared and gave to me in the keeping of it, where the typewriter was just the first bang, bang, bang like that. And they're on yellow, torn pages in a little notebook. And there's a couple lines that I always remember. She who had no faith or creed went into the garden and planted flower seeds. And I often thought of that people walk around, I'm an agnostic, I'm an atheist, I don't believe in God, I don't believe in anything, and yet they eat the fruits of the trees. You can just put it there. Yet they eat the vegetables. Yet they see the sky and the earth below. Like, how could you not believe that it comes from something bigger than your mind, or bigger than what people test in laboratories as proof that there is a creator? So whether you call the creator or God or the mother or science or whatever it is, it's hard for me to imagine that someone believes in nothing. Even when they say they're agnostic or they're atheist. It just seems ridiculous, actually. That it's an intellectual decision that they've made, not based on any evidence. And to have to know there's a creator by scientific evidence is really, in a sense, I read, it's kind of like a cop-out. It's kind of like a way to stand different than the rest of the human race who does believe in the creative force of the universe. It kind of makes you individual and odd, and maybe you get a lot of attention to say, I'm an atheist. You get people to react to what you say you are. And actually, how could you test that there is a creator? How could you test that there's not a creator? It's only a feeling or a sensation that you have, because it can never be said yea or nay in your mind. And so, as I was just meditating today on the subject matter, the thunder power of love, and that's the same subject, really, that you can discuss what love is forever. You can have an intellectual discussion on what is love, right? But until you can feel it, till you've had the experience of it, then you don't really know. It's just a discussion. It's a philosophical discussion. There's a story that Osho tells about the mystic and the philosopher. A philosopher, Yogi Bhajan would always say, is one who discusses life but never lives it. They were in a forest, a very thick, dense forest in India, with lots of wild animals and a density. A storm came, a big, big storm, with lots of thunder, lots of lightning, and heavy rainfall. The philosopher just looked up at the sky to try to philosophically figure out why it was raining and the implications of it, and on and on. The mystic, who is really the practical one also. Sometimes we think mystics are just out there, but really mystics live very well on the earth too. He looked down at the earth and knew where his feet had to go to take he and the philosopher out of danger's way. He knew the path, he knew the direction, to take them to shelter and to take them where they needed to go in the middle of this storm. So the difference is the philosopher just talks about why things and about things, but never really lives things and never really knows the thunder power of love. Many philosophers, amongst them many Europeans, were very depressed souls. And some of them actually committed suicide that we know. Because they couldn't figure out anything. Because they wouldn't allow themselves to really feel anything, because they had to know. It was Descartes that said, I know, is this right? I know, therefore I believe, right? So how did he know? Well, at that time it was a pretty intellectual concept. But when Yogi Bhajan came and started imparting his teachings to us, he said, yes, you have to know. Otherwise you can't believe. You can't be told by someone there's a God and say, okay, there's a God, and become a monkey and mimic that person, that priest, that philosopher, whoever it is in front of you, or a book in front of you, there is a God. You have to have the experience that there is a God, or whatever you call that ultimate creator. And therefore, it becomes your knowledge.